What's up, everybody? Hope you're all doing well. Got an NFL fact here for you that I think you're all gonna enjoy. The NFL this season has been one roller coaster of craziness, I tell ya. And this divisional round was no different, and boy, did it have some division. Very divisive it was. So in a week that subtracted the Bills, the 49ers, the Texans, and the Bears, let us take a peek into the divide and see how greatness was instead multiplied, and history was added to in this one. First, we'll begin with possibly the most divisive game of them all, and the first game of the divisional round, so it's fitting we start there. As the Denver Broncos took on the Buffalo Bills. Bo Nix, as we all know now, unfortunately won't be continuing this mile-high magical run the Broncos have been on, as it was announced shortly after their win that it was officially over. Or is it?
How he could put any weight on and play those last couple snaps. What that means is it's a very simple fracture to plate and put some screws in. There is this outside chance that what he needs is to have surgery tomorrow by all reports, that the plates and screws that are there, because it's such a simple fracture, that he could almost be back to play by the Super Bowl. It's a crazy thought, but crazier things have happened.
Getting everyone's hopes up.
Oh, come on, Doc. Come on, man. Don't give us hope.
I'm just saying.
Nah, don't get your hopes up too much, Broncos country. You'll be getting J.K. Dobbins back, but Bo will most likely not be on that field. Sorry to say it. Well, never mind. Recorded this too soon, meaning on Sunday night, so late breaking news. No J.K. Dobbins either, despite practicing this week. And in the legendary words of Steve Mariucci, bummer. But hey, at least R.J. Harvey was looking alright last week, so maybe him and McLaughlin can carry them through like they have been, and hopefully for their sake they can. And with that, my sincerest condolences to all of you Broncos fans out there, cause that sucks. But before his season ended on Saturday, Bo matched some marks and even outright made some history this season as well as this week. So let's talk about it and show our respects, as he became the only Broncos quarterback drafted by the team other than Tim Tebow to win a playoff game as a Bronco in their franchise's history. And that one, as you know, being the legendary one-play overtime ended by the late, great Demaryius Thomas, who called game with this 80-yarder and helped Tebow make history in overtime, much like this one. And I know Broncos fans might love to hear this, and hopefully it gives you all a little hope, as you know who else has thrown Demaryius Thomas a touchdown pass? Their current starting quarterback, Jarrett Stidham. 2 touchdowns, in fact, when Stidham was a rookie with the New England Patriots.
Demaryius, what did you think of Jarrett Stidham, and did he look like a rookie at certain times, or did he look like a vet to you?
I can't compare, but in my time, I done had a lot of quarterbacks, and today I say, he did it. He did what he had to do to put us in situations to score points, and it looked good to me.
So this season, which has almost completely centered around and loosely mimicked the Super Bowl 50 team and Demaryius Thomas in general, as we covered earlier this season, with his Ring of Honor induction being at the halftime of the New York Giants game, has maybe this one last tie between the Broncos and Thomas left untouched. And maybe, just maybe, it will rear its head right in time and bode well for the Broncos in this final stretch. I mean, 2026 is the year of the horse after all, so that's all I'm saying. As Jarrett, the very QB who Bo Nix replaced at Auburn, will now get his chance to replace Nix and finish the job against his former team. Jarrett becoming the first quarterback in league history to start in a conference championship game or later after not throwing the football a single time in the regular season. season. Although admittedly his preseason tape, as you've been watching as the backdrop here as I speak, was actually very good, even if it was against 2s, 3s, and 4s. And save for one kneel down snap against the Dallas Cowboys when the Broncos blew them out, did not play a single down of meaningful football either. Not that a victory formation is meaningless or anything, but you know. And speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, Stidham would be the first to not start a game in a season until the championship game since Roger Staubach in 1972. But Staubach did throw some passes in lieu of their starter Craig Morton during the season. And what a great story that would make. That would be a stellar America's game or a 30 for 30 in a few years, if Stidham can pull it off.
Okay, so here's the list of backup quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl, and it's great for the Broncos. Don't you see the message that's hidden within this list? It's obvious, isn't it? Okay, here, I'll rearrange it for you to make things easier. As you can see, the letters all equal Jarrett Stidham Super Bowl. It was there all along.
But as Sean Payton, in his best Dick Vermeil impression, made clear,
I said this at the beginning of the season, I feel like I've got a 2 that's capable of starting for a handful of, number of teams. And I know he feels the same way. So watch out, just watch. Listen, this Steady's ready. And here we go.
We will rally around
this Steady
and we'll play good football.
Big old Steady's gonna be ready to squeeze one out. And who wouldn't love a good Steady squeeze? I'm sorry, but I gotta follow the script. So we'll see if they can in fact rally around Jarrett Stidham and play good football against the team that drafted him, but didn't believe in him enough to keep him around. Whereas Peyton with the Broncos, he was actually his second free agent signing after little Jordan Humphrey, who he'll be throwing to this week. So we'll see if those two can pay off the down payment of confidence this weekend. I mean, Peyton even gave him a second contract, so he does actually believe in him. And since I know everyone wants my opinion on the matter, I'll give it to you. I think as good as Bo Nix is, and I'd like to think of myself as a first-rate believer, I think the skill set won't be a major drop-off, so I would imagine you see similar plays ran and won't notice anything too significant change for most of the game. But the thing they may end up missing the most is Nix's clutch gene, embedded with him near the end. But who knows? Stidham may very well prove in the biggest game of his life so far, which is taking the place of his 63-14 bowl win over Purdue, in which he had 5 touchdowns, to again prove he has what it takes in big games. Much like a certain someone who faced the New England Patriots as a backup in the biggest game of his life, and pulled it out. First, it was this one's for John. Then it was this one's for Pat. But this one's for Bo. The Broncos, though, have never won a Super Bowl without a former Indianapolis Colts drafted quarterback on their active roster. So it's a good thing they finally have their joker on the game day roster in former Indianapolis Colts drafted QB Sam Ehlinger, who was just elevated from the practice squad to the number 2 spot behind Stidham. I mean, talk about just in the nick of time. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's continue our acknowledging of Bo Nix's stellar sophomore season, as he also matched another former Bronco, and more pertinent to this stat, a former Seahawk, in Russell Wilson for the most regular season wins by any quarterback in NFL history through their first 2 seasons of a career, both with 24. And in this one, getting his 8th comeback win, which extends the Broncos and his record for the most comeback wins in a season. Denver now winning 12 times in 1-score games, which tops the 2022 Minnesota Vikings and the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs for the most games in a season won within 1 score. 2 of those scores being thrown by Bo Nix himself on a pass that traveled over 20 yards. 1 26-yarder to special teams ace Marvin Mims Jr. for the go-ahead touchdown at the time in the latter stages of the game in crunch time. Quite literally for Marvin Mims. Oof. and then an earlier one for 29 yards to backup receiver, already mentioned Little Jordan Humphrey, who redeemed his earlier touchdown drop and came through with this one. All of which now officially means that Bo Nix has thrown the most deep touchdown passes of 20-plus air yards of any single quarterback in the National Football League since entering said league last season. Now with 19 such touchdowns. Yes, as crazy it may seem, name any other quarterback and he has more deep touchdown throws than them. And yes, those two were obviously integral to getting them over the Buffalo's hump, because to get that win, every score was needed by the Denver Broncos. But one of those scores might have been the most important of all, or it was at least the coolest of them all. The first one. Well, the first touchdown, which calmed the nerves, got them on top, and juiced them up, as Bo Nix found undrafted offensive lineman and part-time detective Frank Crum, who sniffed it out for the big man playoff tutty, which is the first ever time an offensive lineman has scored a touchdown for the Denver Broncos in a playoff game.
Yeah, I mean, that was a dream come true for an O-lineman. I don't even think I scored a touchdown in backyard football. So that was my first ever in my life.
One of one, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
Brock Lesnar's long-lost son, Frank Crum, living the big man's dream after being, again, undrafted out of Wyoming, the same college that the Buffalo Bills' Josh Allen attended, but not at the same time. Allen coming into this game, having played in 15 playoff games in his career, but the last 6 of which were practically flawless, having not turned the ball over once in those games, which is a postseason record of 6 consecutive games without a turnover, as they noted before the broadcast. And as I heard that, I knew Bills fans writ large were probably collectively thinking, "Hey Nance, shut the fuck
Watch your profanity
up." Because what came next was almost the only thing that could have happened. 5 Bills turnovers for the Denver Broncos in this one, 4 of which coming off the hand of Josh Allen. Though that didn't stop him from balling out between the turnovers, as the Bills either scored points or turned the ball over. No punts, no in-betweens. Allen scoring a few times to help keep the Bills in the game, but none of those scores went to one Brandon Cooks, who now has the most catches in playoff history without a touchdown, passing J.J. Stokes' 37 to place his 40 receptions right at the top of the list. Denver not allowing him to cross the plane even once. But Josh, after 427 snaps of clean living, he fell off the wagon pretty hard, as the Broncos held the Bills under lock and key all game. That, of course, being PJ Locke, who got himself one of those interceptions, and Devon Key, who was, as his name would suggest, key in helping get the Broncos a last-second field goal before halftime, with his own fumble recovery off of a strip by Bonito in a game that was, in the end, decided by 3 points. And that very same defense will have to do it again this week if they want to have a chance. I mean, if Jaquan McMillian can come through like he has been, and if you want my 2 cents on the controversial calls, including his interception, I will say I agree with the interception call. Only because if Brandon Cooks was all alone and the ball popped out and hit the ground, it would have been called incomplete. And not a fumble because he wasn't a runner yet. He was still in the process of making the catch, which he didn't do. So by that standard, the ground wasn't survived and Jaquan caught it before it did hit the ground. And though offense would get this simultaneous possession, the thing is, it was never simultaneously possessed. It was just in the process of possession, then bobbled when contacted by the ground, and finally, by the end of it, possessed by Jaquan. So that doesn't really apply in what is now known as the Mile Heist, or the McMile Heist.
I'm not sure that Cooks has possession coming to the ground there to say that it would be simultaneous. It feels to me like Cooks doesn't have firm possession of the football when they're down by contact there. Yeah, you would go interception here because the ball doesn't hit the ground, and if he doesn't have firm possession, but the defensive back does, whenever he rolls,
whoever gets possession
the D-back
first
is down by contact.
Right? Whoever gets possession first.
Anyway, for the rest of them, this was definitely roughing the passer on Joey Bosa. This wasn't pass interference, in my opinion, but even if it wasn't called, with the roughing the passer, it would only be 2 to 3 yards of difference. This one probably should have been PI. Sorry, Bills fans, but to that point, it wasn't overtime yet, so they were letting them play. And there is a good argument for uncatchable there, as Brandon Cooks impeded his own progress by slowing himself down rather than Riley Moss. So I do understand the call, or the no call. Then the flag on Tre'Davious White definitely, in my opinion, was pass interference. And lastly, all of this shouldn't even need to be discussed, nor should it even matter. And the Bo Nix injury could have been prevented if only the refs didn't miss this holding call in the end zone on DJ Jones.
Lucky to get out of here. That could have been a hold in the end zone, which could have ended the game the other way. That would have been crazy.
Yeah, the safety would have won the game.
Which would have won the Broncos the game on a safety. Although, I will admit I did think the game was going to end before overtime, as I for sure thought Matt Prater would help the Broncos win one last time on the final kick of regulation. But like the master of the clutch he booted it through to give the Bills one last gasp. So in this one, both teams suffered from bad breaks, literally, figuratively, metaphorically, however Kali you want. Both QBs come away with tears in their eyes. Both franchises played a really good game of football, but ultimately both can't move on, as the Broncos and Bo Nix came away with this one. And with that, Bo Nix, with this win, gives the 2024 first-round QB draft class its 4th different postseason game winner, which makes Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and Caleb Williams the first QB class of first-rounders since the 1983 class of John Elway, Jim Kelly, Dan Marino, and Tony Eason to have 4 different QBs win a playoff game in their career, and were the only 2 classes of first-round QBs ever to do so, until Sam Darnold won the very next game, which gave him his first playoff win to pair with his Carolina Panthers teammate Baker Mayfield. Bo Nix's opponent, Josh Allen, and the Lamarvelous Lamar Jackson. Darnold helping the first-round QBs of the 2019 draft class join in on the history, as they became the first QB class of first-rounders since the 2024 class of Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and Caleb Williams, and are now the only 3 classes of first-round QBs ever to do so. Sam Darnold also becoming the first and only quarterback other than Chris Chandler to play for 5 or more teams before winning their first playoff start. The Seahawks in this one obliterating the 49ers 41-6 in a take them behind the woodshed type of game. Like seriously, it was a no mercy beatdown, as the Seahawks became the first team in NFL history to post a 40-burger, score a special teams touchdown, rush for over 150 yards, have 0 turnovers, allow 0 touchdowns, and have fewer than 10 penalty yards called on them in any game ever, not just the postseason. But it all started with the first kickoff return touchdown to open a game in a decade, and only the 6th time ever in the playoffs, as Rashid Shaheed, who, as you might not be aware, is the only player this season with both a punt return for a touchdown, and as you saw on Saturday, a kickoff return for a touchdown, fielding this football and racing past the illegal soccer-style tripping attempt by the kicker, and breezing by all others to house the opening kick from 95 yards out and set the tone for the game. Not having been done since the Kansas City Chiefs in 2015, with Niall Davis returning the football, taking that kickoff 106 yards and in for the score on the opening kickoff of that game against the Houston Texans. And And speaking of the Texans and quarterback, C.J. Stroud had a really rough postseason, as he just became the only quarterback in NFL history to throw 5 interceptions and fumble the ball 5 times in a single postseason, which was very unfortunate to see for such a good dude and what has been a fun team to watch turn it around. But everyone knows all too well that's what happens when you disrespect the towel. So hopefully they can patch things up. Looks like they're trying. And while we're on the subject of turnarounds and turnovers, might as well take this opportunity to segue this into the Chicago Bears game, where both were witnessed, as Chicago has certifiably turned themselves around this season, with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams coming through in the clutch many a time. I mean, that throw on 4th down to get that game in overtime was a thing of pure magnificence, and unofficially might be the longest 14-yard completion of all time. And actually, after further review, it was, as this is officially the longest red zone pass by air distance ever recorded, at least since 2016, when Next Gen Statistics started tracking red zone data, having traveled 51 air yards to reach the intended target. It's just one of those yes plays that leaves you absolutely awestruck by the end of it. And one after which I seriously thought they'd go for 2, thinking they've made it further than everyone thought they should have, so why not? But
thought about it. Probably what played a little bit of a factor was, our goal to go situations hadn't gone very clean. Our inside the 5 plan hadn't worked out quite like we had hoped, and so just felt better about taking our chances there in overtime.
And there's no denying that they are on the right path in only their first year. And I failed to mention this last week, as I overlooked it, my bad. But Caleb Williams became the first Chicago Bears quarterback to pass for 4,000 yards in a season, playoffs included, officially ending his season with 4,560 yards by way of air delivery. So there you go, they have that out of the way, kind of. And Bears fans should have nothing but excitement going forward. It's just that their luck ran out in overtime in this one, with a somewhat rare Caleb Williams throw an interception and a great grab by Cam Curl, giving the Rams the football. And after a solid drive, were able to kick it for the victory off the leg of the thicker kicker Harrison Mavis. The Bears fought hard all season long, and it was nothing short of a valiant effort by their squad in this one. With that though, the Los Angeles Rams came out on top on the road. The only road team to win this week, and now they again add themselves, along with the Denver Broncos this week, to the list of now 5 teams who have won a game in these playoffs after trailing in the final 3 minutes of the contest, as well as the Bears, Rams, Broncos, and Bills, all adding to the total of 14 fourth quarter lead changes throughout these past 2 weeks, which both are now the most in a single postseason all time. So the Los Angeles Rams will go on to face the Seattle Seahawks and see if they can't return to where they were only a few years ago, as the Seahawks aim to reach the point they haven't been to since the infamous interception heard around the world, for potentially a rematch with the very same team that clipped their wings in said game. But if the Broncos have anything to say about it, we might just see a rematch there as well against the Seahawks, or possibly a third go-around of Rams v Patriots, one in which we get to see the 2 MVP caliber QBs battle it out before our very own eyes. But let's be real here. Although injuries are never funny and should never be wished upon anyone, that's not what I'm doing here. Opportunities brought on by said injuries can be, and the funniest outcome I hope we can all agree on without much division would be if the Broncos advance to face off against the Seahawks, who because of a re-aggravation to Sam Darnold's oblique would have to go against former Denver Bronco Drew Lock in the very first ever backup versus backup Super Bowl.
Hey, look at us. Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought? Not me. Drew Lock has a horse cock!
Yeah, let's go! Let's get this shit! Let's go!
Steady's ready.
Now wouldn't that be something? Really would be the ultimate capper to possibly the craziest season in NFL history. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens this week. Either way it goes though, one thing we do know for sure. We'll 100% be seeing a head coach named Mike or Sean coach their team in the Super Bowl, which is crazy. But hey, look at us. You sitting there wondering how you can get to nearly any event your heart desires, and me with the good news that you can team up with SeatGeek and make your dream come true. A proud sponsor of SVTV and the world's best ticketing app and website. With their state-of-the-art seating chart, they come in clutch by using their top-of-class ticketing interface to make sure you get the best seat for the best deal. And to get you back up a bit, just use code SVTV for $20 off your first ticket purchase. And don't you miss out on watching something worth seeing anymore. Alright, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you in the next one, and peace out.
Would you cut your dick off for a Super Bowl?
Oh, been married 20 years. Yeah, probably.
You've got 3
as a player.
Holy
That was,
yeah.
You kidding me?